Welcome to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashlee Hope, and this is your weekly check-in to get out of your head, into your body, and back into alignment with the version of you who's already living the vision. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into the show. Hey, friend, and welcome back to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashlee Hope, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you've been rocking with me since episode 1 or this is your first time listening, just know this space is sacred. This space is soft. It is for the woman who's evolving on purpose. It's for the woman who's rewriting old patterns and choosing to live in alignment, even when it's messy, which it probably will be, even when it's uncomfortable, which I can assure you it will be. And even when she's still figuring it all out, which we all are. So today's conversation is one of those episodes that gives language to something you've likely felt, but maybe you didn't know how to name. And we're talking about what I call your emotional default setting. And it's really just the internal automatic responses that kick in when you're trying to evolve, but you still feel stuck in old cycles. So this episode is for the woman who knows what to do, right? Like she's read the books, she's set the intentions, she's made the vision board, she's gone to therapy, but sometimes the follow through still feels like a struggle. And it's not because she's unmotivated. It's not because she doesn't care, but her body is holding on to an older version of safety. And so my hope is that by the end of this show, you feel seen and you feel heard and you feel validated and you have some language around what you may be experiencing and even some practical tools to help you move forward. So let's get into the show. So girl, have you ever set a goal and you start out strong, you're super motivated, and then out of nowhere, you're back in an old cycle you swore you left behind, you swore you weren't going back to, and like you said, this would be your soft season, and you would rest more, you would stress less, you would be more present, but you find yourself on autopilot, or overbooking your schedule, or saying yes when you mean no, or numbing out in the exact ways you said you wouldn't, like you promised yourself. That is your emotional default setting in action. And it's the way your nervous system learned to protect you. And it's often based on what you experienced growing up. For a lot of us, especially Black women or women of color, our bodies were trained to move. We were trained and conditioned to perform and produce, to always be doing something, right? To associate stillness with laziness, to associate rest with guilt. And let me bring this home with a story from my own life that a lot of you may resonate with, because I know I'm not the only one who grew up this way. But growing up, rest didn't always feel like an option, especially as an eldest daughter. My goodness, eldest daughters unite, all right? If there were dishes in the sink or the floor needed sweeping, you got up and handled it. Sleeping in was not really a thing. And if you were caught relaxing, notice my phrasing there, if you were caught relaxing or just being, watching TV, laying around, it was a problem unless everything else was already done and everyone else was already taken care of. And there was this quiet expectation that your value was tied to your output. And no, your parents or your guardians or the adult figures in your life, they probably didn't say this to you explicitly, but it was implied. And the messaging was that being still was only acceptable if you earned it. That was the caveat. And I remember being young and laying on the couch. And as soon as I heard my parents coming down the hallway or pulling up in the garage, coming through that front door, baby, I would pop up and start doing something. Okay. Wiping off a counter, straightening pillows, pretending I was in motion, because subconsciously I'd already learned if I'm not doing something, I might get questioned. Baby, I might even get cussed out, okay, in my household. I might get called lazy. I might get a look or a side eye that says, so you're just going to lay there while all this stuff needs to be done? And even now, sometimes as a grown woman, that old pattern still tries to creep in. And there are moments where I genuinely want to rest, but something in me starts looking for something to do. And not because I have to, or even that I want to, but because there's still a part of me that feels like being still isn't allowed. Like rest means I'm being lazy. Like doing nothing might make me look or feel like a burden. Like I'm only valuable when I'm doing something, especially for somebody else. And that's what an emotional default setting can look like. It's not just mindset. It's not just procrastination. It's a nervous system response that was formed at some point in your life, likely childhood, to help you survive. And until it's acknowledged, girl, it'll keep pulling you back. Even when you consciously want to change, even when you consciously want to show up differently, even when you consciously want more. And so when you're in that tension between who you were and who you're becoming, I want you to ask yourself, what is the old agreement my body still thinks it needs to honor? And sit with that for a minute and let your body respond to you. And then something else I want you to ask yourself, what's the payoff I'm getting from this pattern, even if it no longer serves me? Your emotional default didn't come out of nowhere, sis, right? It's a pattern your body learned to depend on, one that made sense at some point in your life, even if it doesn't serve you now. And the version of you that you're becoming, she doesn't just need a new routine. She needs a new sense of safety. She needs new agreements. She needs new signals that say, it's okay to live differently now. It's safe to live differently now. It is safe to respond differently now. And the beautiful thing is you can start creating that safety for yourself right now. So let's talk about how. Here's how you shift your emotional default setting in real time. Take notes if you feel called. The first step is to slow down the auto response. You pause the pattern, literally. So often we move through life reacting from habit, from the emotional programming that's been running in the background for years. And so when you feel yourself spiraling into a familiar pattern, whether it's avoiding a task, right? Or it's overcommitting, numbing out, or trying to perfect everything, friend, I need you to pause. Literally stop and take a slow breath. Focus on your breath and put your hand on your body if you need to. I find that, especially for women, it's very helpful and soothing to place one hand over the heart or the womb space or both and just ask yourself, what is this response trying to do for me right now? Because you want to hold space for it, right? And not just shun it and not just bury it down deep. You want to hold space for it and see what it has to show you. And even if the behavior feels misaligned or frustrating, just know your body is trying to do something for you, not to you. It's likely trying to keep you safe. So maybe avoidance is trying to protect you from the shame of you doing it wrong. Maybe hustle is trying to keep you from feeling forgotten or judged. Maybe people pleasing is trying to prevent conflict or rejection. So try to get curious about the benefit that your body believes it's getting. Number 2 is naming the original agreement. So we know that every default pattern is rooted in a story, and that story is usually tied to an old agreement you made with yourself. And you may not even realize you made it, girl. It was likely subconscious, but it happened through repetition, through observation, through trying to stay safe in environments that didn't always feel emotionally secure. So here you can ask yourself, what did I learn that I'm still holding on to? Maybe you learned I have to do it all or it won't get done. Maybe you learned if I slow down, I'll fall behind. Maybe you learned if I take up space, I'll be punished. Or if you're like me, maybe you learned if I rest, I'll be perceived as lazy. These are internal agreements. These are silent contracts. And when you name them, when you say them out loud or you write them down, you make them visible, girl. And naming the story doesn't make it true, but it does make it transformable, transmutable. You can alchemize it and change the story. Number 3 is you choose a micro shift. And this is where you start practicing a new way. And again, you don't have to fix your whole life overnight. Just pick one space in your day where your emotional default setting usually kicks in, and you just choose differently, right? If your default is saying yes when you want to say no, let me get back to you on that, okay? If your default setting is perfectionism, sometimes I struggle with that. Girl, let the thing be 80% done and still put it out. I know that's scary, right? I know that can sound frightening, but just try it, right? You're not going to die, I promise. It can feel like you're going to die, literally. Like your nervous system may respond like, you're in fight or flight. But girl, you're going to live. You'll be all right. If your default is avoidance, do 5 minutes of the task and then walk away proud. So small, consistent shifts teach your nervous system that change doesn't have to mean danger. And every time you choose her, even in a micro moment, you're building momentum. And number 4, anchor the new pattern with safety. And this is the most important part. And this is why I keep telling anyone who will listen, you got to get out of your mind and into your body. After you do the new thing, you've got to let your body know that it was safe. Otherwise, the old programming kicks right back in, baby. And the cycle repeats itself. You're right back on the hamster wheel. So when you say no, I want you to breathe and notice your breath. Be still and remind yourself, I'm allowed to honor my capacity. And when you rest, ground yourself. And you may even need to tell yourself, nothing's falling apart. I'm not lazy. I'm allowed to be still. My rest doesn't have to be earned. Rest is a resistance. Me being able to rest without guilt is my ancestors' wildest dreams. When you speak up, soothe your nervous system and say to yourself, I'm not too much. I'm allowed to be heard. I honor my voice. And by doing this, you slowly recondition your body to feel safe in the new version of you. And this is the part of the work that most people overlook, right? Like shifting takes more than motivation. It takes patience, which is why I say, baby, it's buckle up. This is a lifelong practice, okay? And you need patience. You need grace. Shifting takes attention. It takes intention. It takes repetition. It takes all the tissues, okay? It takes being honest about the habits that once protected you and then just gently choosing something new. That's how easy it can be. And that's how change actually sticks. Not because you're trying to force yourself into a better routine, but because you're starting to create a life that feels safer to be present in. So if you're wondering why it's been hard to show up, why the consistency just isn't clicking, why you keep looping back to patterns you thought you were done with, you're not doing anything wrong. And you're not the only one going through this. It's just time to update the settings. You're ready to update the settings. You're ready to build a new foundation and make this foundation reflect who you're becoming, not who you had to be, not who you were programmed and conditioned to be. Not who you had to be when you were in survival mode. We are done with that chapter. Remember, I told you in a previous episode, Christina's gone. Christina's gone. And before you go back into the world and into your day, I want to give you a chance to feel that shift in your body, girl. And let's close with a short practice to help you reconnect to the version of you who's not living in default anymore. And this is a moment for her. So friend, find some stillness if it's safe to do so in this moment. And I invite you to place one hand on your chest or over your heart space, the other on your belly or over your womb space. And just take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And again, take in another cleansing, purifying breath in through your nose. And gently exhale through your mouth and just let your shoulders relax. Let your jaws soften. Remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Unfurrow your brow. And just let your nervous system know we are safe right here. And just notice how you feel. Notice what comes up. Notice the areas that are tight. Notice the areas that are tense. And without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just notice them, just observe. And friend, I invite you to feel the old programming gently losing its grip. The part of you that learned to perform, to prove, to hustle. Not because she was wrong, right? We're not affixing any blame. There's no shame. We know that she was just surviving. And now feel into the woman that you are becoming, the woman that you are, the version of you who moves with softness, with confidence, with ease, with trust, with intention. Feel into her experience, into her frequency. And you can say to yourself or out loud, I am safe to slow down. I can rest without guilt. I no longer live in default. I choose alignment. And I invite you to let that truth move through your entire body, through every cell, through every organ, through your mind, through your spirit, through your aura. And so it is. Friend, if this episode brought something to the surface, if you feel seen, if you feel heard, if you feel expanded, please share it with a friend. Don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who's also evolving, and tag me on Instagram at evolvingintoher.co and just let me know what resonated with you the most. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave me a written review. That really helps the show grow. Spotify fam, those 5-star ratings mean a lot to me too. Thank you for being in this sacred unfolding with me. This is Ashlee Hope, and you are evolving into her. I'm Ashlee Hope, and you've been listening to Evolving into Her. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for choosing her, for choosing yourself. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming.